Welcome back to Expert Talks. We are recording this during the World Cup, and that's not an accident. Lenovo is the technology partner of the tournament, and behind every match, AI is working live right where the action happens. The same thing is happening in business IT. AI is moving out of the cloud and onto the device. Today we ask, what does it mean for IT leaders? Today I've got two amazing guests, and I'm more than happy to welcome to my right-hand side Thilo Bayerlander, Executive Director Worldwide Sales and Go-to-Market for Digital Workplace Solutions at Lenovo. And on my left-hand side, Sven Matthiesen, Managing Director, devicenow.
Thank you for having me.
Hello, looking forward to our conversation.
And as we are in the mid of the World Cup, maybe before we dive into the topic from World Cup to workplace, one question in the beginning. So as the German team has left the playing field, what is now your favorite for the World Cup?
Okay, so my initial tip was it's going to be Germany. Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned it. Out. So that was not a good one. Secondly, I think it's most likely that France will win it. Uh-huh. However, my hopes are with Norway, because for me, Norway is the biggest surprise team in the World Cup, and I hope that they reach the final.
And they do such lovely performances.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's so great to see this, and the energy in the stadium is so amazing. What about you, Sven?
I had also high hopes for Germany. So, but maybe it was not fact-based. It was just, as I said, high hopes. And in the end, I totally have to agree with Thilo. I believe that France has really a high chance of winning the World Cup.
Okay, so then we will stay curious. And as we hopefully will publish this session as soon as possible, we will then have the answer. Who will win the game in the end, the finals? So let's see and stay curious. Thilo. As Lenovo is a technology partner of the World Cup, I'm really curious about what are we talking about here? Mm-hmm. What is the full scenario when it comes to being a technology partner?
Good question. It's a big excitement for us at Lenovo right now. Obviously, there's all the media coverage, what you see, but Lenovo is actually providing a multitude of technologies and solutions for the World Cup. So let's start with IPTV infrastructure, right? So the entire IPTV infrastructure runs on Lenovo. Things like what you see as a spectator in front of the television is things like the referee cam, right? I'm sure you have seen the perspective of the camera where the ref has the camera next to his head. And what Lenovo is actually doing is we are using AI to stabilize the pictures. Mm-hmm. And we use that technology from Formula One. Mm-hmm. That basically what it does, it captures the footage live, sends it to a server, and it's got rendered so that the picture gets stabilized. Mm-hmm. Because you can imagine you would get seasick, of all the shaking and the running the referee is doing, and hence I think it provides great innovation in this year's World Cup. So that's one element which is, I think, really, really good. There are a few more things which we have been doing. One is obviously fan experience is a big one, right? Mm-hmm. So basically we build a digital twin from every single stadium, which is gonna help every visitor to go to his place, to see where the next restaurants are, these type of things. Then obviously for the VIPs, we built in like business class seats with screens so that, if you would be sitting in on one of those seats, you can do replays in a stadium, which is obviously something which
instantly. So you can just push on the button.
Was that a foul? Was it a
cool.
That's foul? Good. Right. Mm-hmm. That's one. And the other thing which was quite interesting too was we had to build avatars for all 1,246 players.
That's crazy.
It is. And that was one of these things, is like the devil's in the detail when it comes to technology. You don't have enough or a lot of time to do that.
Yes.
So we basically had to buy a few of those full body scanners and ship them around in the US to make sure that we capture the teams during the media days. Okay. because this is the day when all the teams are there, and they basically then are available for media to do, you know, all their funny little gestures and these type of things. So we just chucked them through.
And what else is doable with these kind of avatars? Are there other functions maybe?
The avatars themselves are for the VAR analysis. Okay, so to make it a bit more lively. Okay, not just a gray person, but that you can see who that person is, and you know, it relates a bit better. It helps to understand basically the decisions, right? So, but ultimately, I think this is the most of the gimmicks, you know, which we did, because the other are really, really, really cool exercises. And you know, as you know, we deployed over 1,200 people across the World Cup, you know, just to make sure that we have the operations center covered. We see every stadium, we see every camera, you know, see when things are working, not working. And then what is really cool is the FIFA AI Pro. It's a ChatGPT type small language model, which is fed by all data FIFA has available from the teams, from the players. So what it basically does, it gives you strategic analysis about a game, about a player. So if you are a coach of, let's say, Haiti, okay, and you're playing against Brazil, what it does is you give in, like, what is the best strategy to win against Brazil? And then it comes, never let the player with the number 9, you know, run alone in the dangerous zone and these type of things. So it does basically the full analysis. And gives you strategies on games. Why we're doing this? Because we believe that this is a big support to democratizing AI. Right? So we provide basically with FIFA small countries who don't have the budgets like the big football nations, right? To work with AI and to fine tune their game and basically to overcome that gap. So it's been used. So we checked the data last week, and I think there were like over 30,000 prompts, basically, you know, used by several teams to work with that.
Maybe I should have also asked the AI who will be the next World Cup winner. Then it wouldn't have been Germany.
Probably not.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
As we are active in DaaS business, so what about the devices that are needed for such a big event?
Yeah. So, good question. We'd used the FIFA Cup World Cup last year as a training ground. But remember, it is a training ground in front of 6 billion people. So there are no second chances. And we used obviously the Lenovo equipment across the board, but in particular, the various devices which is needed, like, you know, the workstations for rendering, servers. All the teams are having, you know, Lenovo equipment. And, you know, it's been run by a fleet of 1,200 people from Lenovo who are basically managing the entire infrastructure across all the stadiums during the World Cup this time. So what happened last year was obviously a big test, if you want. And it worked out very well. So hence, there weren't a lot of changes needed.
Let's build a bridge. So all your activities you explained and described, more than amazing, to be honest, a lot of efforts and really, really modern stuff. So, but how does this matter for IT leaders?
I think it matters in that sense that you pick one use case and you work on that. Let's take the RefCam, for example. Okay, you have the problem, which is they're unstable pictures. And then obviously you try to play around with it until you figured it out in a secure, safe environment. And once this is done and it works and it scales, then it's ready for productivity. So in other words, I think the analogy you can use there is you pick one use case, you execute against it, and then you scale, and then you will be successful.
Yes, like a pilot, but a really, really huge one, isn't it?
It's a huge edge deployment.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We talked about it earlier that you attend to a tech event in Vegas a few weeks ago, and you saw Jensen 1. And Jensen talked about a shift, and you mentioned he was a really happy one at stage.
Yeah.
What was the reason for this?
First of all, I must say he was just celebrating on stage because he's a very successful person at these days.
Okay. In good mood.
He was in a very good mood. So as I said, he was celebrating on stage because of this shift. Yeah, you are right. I believe we have talked about this topic in the past oftentimes already. So there were large data centers, then there was the PC era and so on. And at the moment, the pendulum swings back. So in the future, it will be even more important to have local capacity on your workplace device. And there are different reasons why this is happening. One is, of course, when it comes to data privacy and data shouldn't leave the room, then the cloud is not an option. So there are a lot of examples where this is necessary. And also when it comes to latencies and the huge amount of data we are transferring from the cloud and back, it's really a big issue.
Yeah. And I think there are a few other topics which are playing a role. One is also the sheer cost of using LLMs, right? So I think everybody heard about the famous Uber case when they lost hundreds of millions of dollars because they run out of tokens and they got the invoice later on. That was obviously an awakening for the industry. Secondly, I think that you don't need those LLM applications for every single use case. Yeah. So using the example of the pictures, right? I mean, it's okay. It's enough if you take the pictures and you load them into a local server, which does the work, talking about latency and these type of things, right? That's more than enough.
Yeah.
When it comes to AI topics, it feels like there are no borders anymore. It's more the worldwide view we have at the moment. But in the end, we talk about different speeds, regulatory topics, and so on and so forth. So what is your perspective when it comes to a worldwide view and also the usage of artificial intelligence?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are a lot of differences. I had the opportunity to meet with a few AI native startups in North America a few weeks back. AI native means these companies are just a few months, maybe a few years old. They don't have any legacy when it comes to internal systems or processes. And all what they do is really they find solutions, let's say in the call center space, in the customer service space, and that gives you an idea how advanced these companies are. And it's all about trial and error. And this is they want to go big. They have valuations which skyrocket high. They are able to reinvent themselves if needed in 48 hours. They just reprompt what they do. So very, very impressive. That is what you see in North America. It's all about scale. It's about using the big language models, making them successful, trying to go for, let's say, world power when it comes to AI. On the other hand side, you see Asia Pacific with and without China, which is using a different approach. What they do is they go in on very specific use cases. I mentioned the manufacturing one, but they go in very, very deep. But they do not need those LLMs on that scale. They work with DeepSeek and other language models. But the effect, what they're trying to do is very, very focused. And I think using the best of those both worlds is what we see in some of the emerging markets. So countries like South Africa, India, parts of Latin America are exactly doing that. So they use the best of both worlds in order, to learn quick, to leapfrog, to really make sure that they close the gap from an AI usage point of view, from an experience point of view, to North America and to some point to Europe.
So it seems like they are the thought leaders for the Western European market?
There are some similarities, yes.
Yes? Okay. So a lot of work.
A lot of work ahead of us.
Okay. As we see also a shift for AI from cloud to the device. Sven, I think this is your home turf. So when it comes to AI on devices, so what are the changing points or the new scenarios when it comes to management of devices and service on devices?
I believe as we have more intelligence on the devices and more things that happen there, it's even more important to have a stable service which really works globally. So you need a global strategy. Of course, you have to act locally with the regulations and everything else. And in Europe especially, we have the big issue from my point of view that we are most of the time risk averse. So we try to avoid risky things. But we have to become maybe more risk aware in the future. So of course there is a risk when you migrate a lot of things to the cloud and use AI for different things. But without doing this, we won't be competitive in the future. And that's even more important. And as I said, the foundation from my perspective is a service which really works globally. And then you can have different throttles in the areas Tilo just mentioned. For example, the emerging markets then should have the possibility to act different compared to Europe, compared to North America. And then you really have a competitive advantage in your own industry.
Yeah, and I mean, this is in line with what we are doing, right? With devicenow and with Lenovo, that we basically work end to end in a complementary environment, because there's one thing which is basically the service around the device, which we have in common. And that obviously helps us to collaborate, right?
Exactly.
That to build up, end to end workflows, through intelligent systems, or some extent, including even the customers in triaging that. So I think you're absolutely spot on. The other element, what we both are facing, is the current economic environment, meaning on the hardware side, supply shortage, right? Thanks to the AI gigafactories which have been built. That also affects us on the device side, on the infrastructure side. And I feel that having a smart approach on the managed service perspective and on the commercial side as well, definitely helps to overcome, or helps customers to overcome those hurdles.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, when it comes to the shortages, you can work on different concepts to maybe work with larger stocks or whatever is needed to be at the end able to deliver something which is needed on the customer side. In some cases, we already integrated also refurbished devices for customers as they hired new people and there were no devices available. And of course, you have to become more flexible when it comes to these situations.
Yeah, exactly. And on that as well, there are methods which you can apply, from a supply perspective. We work under a program called, supply assurance, which basically allows customers to secure a certain price for a certain time, for a certain number of devices, and gives them the freedom to navigate, within that environment, right? So that, avoid surprises, which I think is part of a managed service is exactly what you want.
Yeah, it becomes predictable again. And that's really important for IT leaders, for the finance departments and so on, to know what they have to pay in the future and if they are really getting devices.
Because if you got that management layer well oiled, so that it really works seamlessly, right? You have time and effort, and you can use your existing resources on more intelligent projects, right? Like future looking. How do you evolve based on that foundation? How do you evolve your service concept? How do you build a service desk with zero ticket vision in 3 years? Using the emerging market example from earlier. We're working with a big organization in Latin America to do exactly that. And they're innovative. They look at us to say, hey, Lenovo, we need your brainpower, we need your experience, in order to get there. We understand as well that, we're all learning in this, but, we trust in you that, you come up with some smart solutions, some smart ideas in order to get us there quickly. So it's for us, it's a great time.
Yeah, I also believe it's a great time. And as you said, it's really about building the foundation for these kind of developments so that the companies can focus on developing their core business further.
100%.
And we just are responsible for the foundation, but the foundation obviously has to work. Otherwise, they are not able to develop further.
And for that reason, it's more than important to have this strong partnership. Also here between devicenow and Lenovo, these two parties together in joint approach, that helps a lot. Also, when we take a look back, now we have July 2026, so the half of the year is done. It feels like crazy, to be honest. And you talked about the shortages we had to deal with in the last 6 months. Also the price increase topics that were really pushing the market and also customers and prospects. So when you take a look at the future and the next 6 months, Thilo, what would you recommend to IT leaders? What should they take care of?
In simple words, I would say get ready. Yeah, because it will not go away. And that is, predominantly a sentence which might resonate in EMEA more than in other geos, just from a readiness point of view. It's also to embrace what is about to come. Yeah. So this is, you mentioned the device. It's not only the device, it's the entire infrastructure, but it's as well things like mobile phones, right? I mean, Lenovo is known for the notebooks, but similarly, best kept secret, Motorola phones are part of the Lenovo portfolio. So that will play into that, so that it's really like a tech-led, labor-light, end-to-end solution. Yeah. And on the other hand side, what else they need to be prepared is you need to continue to drive innovation. And because you mentioned NVIDIA and Jensen earlier, NVIDIA has also a OpenClaw project running, or a product, I should say, NemoClaw. And that is obviously an OpenClaw on a workstation, what we are doing from a Lenovo point of view, right? And working with other partners to secure that. So in other words, there's a lot more innovation coming in the enterprise space, which we need to embrace and tackle, evaluate, and ultimately decide on use cases where we can make best out of it, or most out of it.
What is your recommendation for IT leaders for the next 6 months?
I believe it's super important that AI is not an IT topic. It's really a CEO topic. So every company has to take into consideration how AI may change their own business. And that's something I would recommend the IT leaders to talk more with their top management to really generate something valuable for their business. And of course, IT has to support them when it comes to the execution part and so on. But in the end, it's really about solving business issues, getting faster, and developing something new.
Okay, so as we have to come to an end, I've got one last personal question to both of you, but maybe Thilo, you can answer first. So what is your personal biggest wish or hope for AI development for the next 24 months?
Okay. I would love to see Norway winning the World Cup by using Lenovo-powered FIFA AI Pro to figure out how the French are beatable. What do you need to do? How do you need to play?
You just have to avoid Mbappé to get the ball. So that's maybe one recommendation.
Right, so that would be the first AI-powered World Cup winner.
Yeah, super.
Thank you. Sven, what about you?
For me, it will get important that we, especially in Europe, out of these test phases, because we tested a lot, identified things that make sense, but when it comes to execution, some people are still not super motivated to do new things, maybe also in a different way than in the past, because this also means changing organizations. And that will be crucial for our future success in Europe.
So it's about being bold.
It's about being bold, absolutely, because things are changing. And it's not good enough to just develop a little bit further. It's really about changing maybe some major things.
Yeah, so it's about be brave.
Yeah, brave.
Yes, braveness. That's a good point. So thanks a lot to both of you for all this valuable information and content you shared today. That helps a lot to get a better understanding about chances, but also sometimes issues we have to deal with, and to find the best way for solutions for the future. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you
Thanks.
very much.
What stays with me after this great conversation is how the big shifts in technology often hide in plain sight. At the World Cup, AI is working like at every match, and most fans never think about it. The same shift is happening in business IT right now. AI is moving closer to the people who use it. So if you are planning a device refresh or a new AI project, make sure device, lifecycle and service models are part of the plan from day one. If this episode was useful, share it with your team and see you next time.